When I got into writing, it was in prehistoric times. And we didn't even have typewriters. Didn't come out of the cave, we'd get a block of stone, and we would hack something out on the stone. An editor would take it away and sizzle it in a final form. Well, the millenniums have passed since then, and most writers are still hacks, and most editors are still chiselers.
I'd say there are probably two reasons why I find it easier to write fantasy than to write science fiction. The first is a question of early influences. For example, the work of Gay and Wilson, which I've been familiar with ever since I was a little boy. I read my first Manly Wade Wellman story, Back to the Beast, in 1927, I believe.
I think that's right.
And my first Frank Belknap Long story in the same year. And these people were giants in the fantasy field. They were a profound influence on me. Mr. Brennan's work came along a trifle later, but by that time I was thoroughly hooked, and I was more interested in reading the works of other fantasy writers than I was in science fiction writing per se. The other reason is this. I was always something of a rebel and a nonconformist, and I resented the fact that in science, the stories, at one time at least, had to be based on solid scientific laws, principles, and postulates which could not be violated. I wanted to be free to mold an imaginary world in any shape, manner, or form that I conceived of it. There was a much greater degree of latitude in fantasy. In other words, another way of putting it, I could be much sloppier and consequently enjoyed myself more. And I think to the undisciplined mind, fantasy will always have a stronger emotional appeal.